Hi, I'm here with short form. Today we're going to be discussing The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a 2022 novel that has been made into a movie coming out soon on Netflix. Evelyn Hugo is a famous Hollywood actress who has had 7 husbands. She's nearing the end of her life, and she finally decides to reveal the truth about her life story to a reporter named Monique Grant. Monique is surprised by this opportunity, but she's also skeptical of Evelyn because she has never really heard of her before. But nonetheless, she accepts the assignment. As Evelyn tells her story, we go back and forth between the 1950s and present day. And what we find out is that Evelyn was born in Cuba, and at age 15, she and her sister were sent to live with relatives in Florida, while their mother went off to find work in Hollywood as an actress. They had very little money when they moved, and they basically relied on the kindness of strangers. When Evelyn was 18, her mother died, and she decided to move to Los Angeles so that she could pursue acting as well. Soon after arriving there, she met a man named Ernie Diaz, who was a talent scout for a major studio. He helped her get an agent and land her first big role. But we soon find out that he was actually taking advantage of her and exploiting her body. He was really only interested in having sex with her and getting young actresses like her under his thumb. And it was only after he assaulted her one night that she realized what he was really about. She then slapped him across the face, and that led to him no longer helping her. Now alone in a strange city, she had to rely on her wits to survive, and she soon found herself working as a waitress and sleeping with older men in exchange for favors. One day, she met a woman named Celia St. James, who was another aspiring actress trying to make it in Hollywood. They became fast friends, and together they managed to con several rich men. This helped them become famous, and it also gave them access to all kinds of luxuries, including a house, cars, and expensive clothes. At a party at their home, they met Rex North, who was a powerful studio executive. They ended up having a fling, which resulted in Evelyn becoming pregnant. She wanted to keep the baby, but Celia convinced her to have an abortion because it would ruin her looks. Then, shortly after, Celia got Rex interested in her and began a relationship with him. Meanwhile, Evelyn was still sleeping with a lot of different men, but eventually she met a man named Don Adler, who fell madly in love with her. Don was the son of a famous producer and director, but he was not yet successful himself. Evelyn, however, liked being with someone younger than her for a change. And so the two began a relationship together. She used her influence to help him get several jobs, and eventually he became quite successful himself. However, Evelyn soon grew bored with him and left him for Max Girard, who was a famous French actor. Their relationship was very passionate, but also very chaotic and volatile. Oftentimes, Evelyn felt trapped by Max, and she longed to be free of him. So after a few years, she left him for Robbie Reynolds, who was a famous and wealthy lawyer. Evelyn and Robbie had a great time together, and it seemed like things were going well. But then suddenly, he was called away to serve in the army during World War II. While he was gone, Evelyn began to see someone else, which caused her to lose her reputation and end up blacklisted in Hollywood. After Robbie came back from the war, he told her that he never wanted to see her again. Then, almost by accident, she ran into a man named Harry Cameron. Harry was a famous leading man whose career was beginning to wind down. But despite being older than her, Evelyn found him quite attractive, and she began sleeping with him. This caused a scandal and ended up ruining both of their reputations. Then both of their careers took another hit when they were accused of being communists. Eventually, though, things settled down, and Harry's son, Mick, became a famous leading man. In fact, he was the biggest movie star in the world for several years. Evelyn found him to be quite arrogant, but she did have a fling with him. Then when Mick's father died, Evelyn married Harry just to make sure that his widow would receive half of his estate. And then, after all of that, Evelyn had one more husband, Robert Jameson. He was a British lord who was married to a woman named Lady Diana. But he was so infatuated with Evelyn that he eventually divorced Diana so that he could marry Evelyn instead. Together, they spent most of their time traveling and having affairs with other people. Throughout all of this, we are constantly learning more about the relationship between Evelyn and Monique. Monique is at first somewhat annoyed by Evelyn, but as the story goes on, she becomes more and more fascinated with her. It turns out that Monique is going through a difficult time in her own life, and she feels unfulfilled with her job. So hearing Evelyn's story inspires her to take risks and pursue her dreams. It also turns out that Monique and Evelyn may have more in common than Monique originally thought. In the end, Evelyn died peacefully in her sleep. She left most of her fortune to Monique, which allowed Monique to quit her job, buy a house in the mountains, and live the rest of her life writing novels. So that is the plot of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. But beyond the plot, this is also a novel that explores themes of fame, fortune, love, loss, and everything in between. It's a story about how, even though we may think that money and fame will solve all of our problems, in the end, it really doesn't. Despite having everything that she could ever want, Evelyn is still lonely and unfulfilled. The novel also explores the lengths that people will go to in order to achieve fame and fortune. Evelyn is willing to do whatever it takes to succeed, even if it means betraying the people that she loves. She sleeps with older men, steals from her friends, and ruins her own reputation in order to get ahead. But ultimately, she finds that none of it is worth it. Overall, I would say that The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is a must-read for anyone who enjoys stories about strong female characters, Hollywood, or just a good old-fashioned love story. The writing is beautiful, and the characters are complex and well-developed. You will feel like you know them after reading the book. If you are interested in picking up this novel, let us know in the comments down below. We are currently reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for our book club, and we would love to hear your thoughts on it. Also, if you want to continue to learn about books in an engaging way, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We post videos on literature every single week, and if you enjoy those videos, please leave us a like. It really helps our channel grow. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.